Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're going to go over one of my favorite sets that I have. This is a set I got in 2015 when Lionel released it, and for some reason when I was going through all my videos on YouTube trying to organize everything, I noticed I never actually finished this. I started this video and I never finished it and never posted it. I have no idea why, but we're going to do it today because I really love this set. It's one of the nicest ones Lionel's made, and so has a great history behind this train too. And that is this set that you're seeing right here, which is the New York Central System's Empire State Express set. So this is a legacy set that they came out with in 2015. It has the engine tender. It has 4 cars that come with the set. There's a 2-car add-on, and there's a Station Sounds Diner add-on that you can get. And we have all those cars here. And if you have those extra cars like the Station Sounds Diner, there's some extra setup in the Legacy remote to make some cool things happen when the train is either stopped or in motion. So this is what we're going to be looking at today. So we're going to go over just a tiny bit of history of the Empire State Express because I'm a nerd and I have to tell you some history about the train itself. And then we're going to go over the model and all the details of it and the functioning. And at the end, then we'll go through a little legacy setup and how you actually set this up if you do have the extra car for the Station Sounds Diner and you want to get it to sort of work all together seamlessly with the train. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so let's talk about the Empire State Express and its history a little bit. So you're looking at one of the later streamlined versions. This is a J3A Hudson here. But the name Empire State Express actually is really old to this train. So its first train labeled New York Central's Empire State Express was actually inaugurated in 1891. And it was just a daytime run between New York City and Buffalo, New York. So up through upstate New York. And at that time, the railroad was actually called New York Central and Hudson River Railroad. It wasn't the New York Central system yet. But basically, Locomotive 999 was the earliest version that used that name for the Empire State Express. And it had, like, you know, at the time, standard wooden cars made by Wagner Palace Car Company. And it was pulled by a C-Class 440 American-type steam locomotive, which I love those Americans. They're just, I bought one of those from MTH. I'm still waiting for my DCS system so I can get that on the layout and do a video on that one. But I love those old 440 Americans, and that's what pulled the original Empire State Express. Had those huge 86-inch main drivers that gave it really all its kind of speed. And in May of 1893, it actually broke a land speed record of 112.5 miles per hour with that 440, which is incredible to me. And it actually, I think they said it maintained that record for almost a decade. So super cool. That's kind of where it started. But we're looking at the streamlined version of it, right? That came out in the 40s, right? In the 20s, right, they got some upgrades for the cars. They went to heavyweight cars, and obviously they needed a different locomotive to pull them at that time. So then that's when we went to the non-streamlined J-Class 464 Hudsons, which is like one of the previous reviews I did for you guys, right? And again, it was that same run from New York City to Buffalo, about 430 some miles or so during that run. But this one we're looking at was the 1941 version when they decided to completely streamline this train. And the cars, this streamlining with the cars and the fluted sides and everything were made by the Budd Company that patented this fluted stainless steel sides of these cars. And it came with some new amenities and stuff like that they advertised, like air conditioning and all kinds of things like that. But the day it was inaugurated or christened was Sunday, December 7th, 1941. So does that date sound familiar to anybody? A day that will live in infamy? Yes, that was the day that the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. So the New York Central system couldn't have picked an absolute worse day for all the fanfare and to officially christen their new streamliner that they were advertising. So just a weird fluke of history, but kind of interesting that they didn't get much press or attention that day, obviously, because the world was concerned about what was happening over in Pearl Harbor. So this train still, even with its new streamlining and everything else, its main route was to go from New York City's Grand Central Station, and then it would basically travel through a bunch of stations up through upstate New York and end up in Buffalo's Central Terminal. And that was its main route back and forth, and that's kind of what it was for. So really cool. In the late 40s, it actually received a cab diesel locomotive from the Electromotive Division, which were like E7As, E8As, things like that. And its name still stuck with it. It was still the New York Central's Empire State Express, but it changed to diesel in the late 40s. So this was just really a short time period if you think about it. 1941, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 years before it was replaced with diesels, right? But just an absolutely cool looking train, the way they decided to make it look really sort of, for the time, right? Modern, streamlined. They put this bullet nose on the front of it here, right? And it has all this stainless steel fluted cladding down the sides, right? And they just tried to make it much more streamlined. Same thing with the tender. And then, you know, if you looked at the actual passenger cars, right, they were all the same thing. Just these beautiful streamlined passenger cars from Bud that with all this fluting going down the sides. So yeah, super cool train. Just has a bad date in history, that's all, just by pure luck. Again, these are J3A class Hudsons. I love Hudsons. It's my favorite train if you watch my videos. Like, you got these box drivers and all these cool, the way it looks. I just love it. This is a full legacy model, has everything on it, smoke, whistle, steam, all the standard legacy sounds and everything. And then these are the 21-inch passenger cars by Lionel. So if I remember this correctly, I think these were the first 21-inch passenger cars. This is how they sort of inaugurated them with this set. And they are, you know, this is when they were switching from the aluminum to the ABS plastic cars, right? Which is the cars they use today for all their 21 inches. And even though they are ABS plastic, they actually do look like aluminum if you just look at them. They just look like a matte aluminum instead of the old polished ones like were on the old aluminum made passenger cars. They're all LED lighting on the inside. They do have interiors, although they do not have passengers in these cars, and the interiors are unpainted. But that is something that you could obviously correct by painting the interiors and adding passengers inside it, which I'm not sure why they didn't do that. That would have really made this model stand out. Because right now it just sort of has all white seating in there and everything, and just needs a little color and some passengers in there to sort of finish it off. All right, so let's just take a little closer look at the model itself here. So we got the Empire State Express logo on the front, New York Central System. Remember, it was called New York Central System, not New York Central Railroad. A lot of people make that mistake. That famous bullet nose right there on the front. It's got some great piping detail. Love those drivers. Some of my favorite on the Hudsons. And then you got that streamlining. And it has all the things like firebox glow. It's got figures in the cab here. Lighted cab, all that kind of stuff. Okay. 6-wheel trucks on the tender here, and real cold at the top. Has the hatches up here that slide back and forth to open, so all these work up here at the top. So yeah, beautiful engine. They made this as a Century Club engine, actually. So there's an older one of this also that Lionel made before the Legacy one, and I believe it was the Century Club one. I don't know if that was TMCC or if it was just conventional, but They have made this engine before. And like I said, it comes with 4 passenger cars, 21-inch passenger cars in the set. And they're all lighted, as you can see. They've got great trucks on them, super detailed trucks, sprung. Really beautiful. And they got these aluminum plates riveted on with all the names of the cars. Empire State Express on all of them. What's really nice about these 21-inch cars is if we go over here, you can see the super close coupling they have between these cars here with these vestibules. It really looks nice. And they have kinematic couplers on the bottom here, so it will help negotiate the curves. Now I'm running this on 72 curves, so I'm not sure if it's gonna, I can't remember in the catalog how big a curves or small a curve that you can negotiate these 21 inches with, but they are very close coupled, so they look great running around the layout. Okay, and then I believe this one is the Station Sounds Diner, if I remember that correctly. Yep, it's got the tables in it, I think. Yep. So it's a super long train if you have all the cars that go with it. And of course we end up with the old observation car just as normal, right, on the end. And then you got a nice little lighted Empire State Express back here. I don't know why the camera, oh there it goes. Sometimes the camera doesn't pick up these lighted things very well, but that's what it looks like right there. And you got all the little tail lights at the top lit. So these are really, it's a really beautiful set. Super long, if you get the whole thing. I don't know if I can zoom out here and kind of go down my whole layout, if you can see it, but it's a super long train if you have all the cars, you know. 21 inches times 4, 5, 6, 7 cars, right? So, but okay, so yeah, let's fire it up and we'll talk about how you program the Legacy remote and the features that come with the Station Sounds Diner. Okay, hopefully you guys can see this in the camera here, but normally you would go to engine and put your engine number in here, but this we're not gonna do that. In this case, we're gonna go to train, and we created a train called labeled it number 54, and that's what we're going to use for this. And the reason we're doing that is because if you want the Station Sounds Diner to be easily accessible, to be able to control it, and there's a lot of features on it, then you need it to be inside a train so that when the engine is running, right, you don't have to flip back and forth between controlling the diner and controlling the engine, because otherwise every time you go back to the diner, if it was just a separate engine, you have to hit the start button again to make it respond. So you want to put it in a train, and we'll show you that a little bit later. But so we're doing train 54, and then we're going to hit start. Okay, and you have all the standard Legacy commands when you're doing that on the engine. So come on, that just sounds like 1941 steam rolling around, right? So that's a fantastic whistle. Okay, and so when you have it in the train mode like this here, what happens is you can use the train link button right here. So if you, hopefully you can see these icons on here. Well, this is the standard Legacy icon, so this would be like number 2 here would be for the crew talk.
Tower, can I get to the main line? Over. Roger that. Take the green. Over. Roger that. I'm green. Out.
Okay, so these are all the standard buttons, smoke and all this kind of stuff, and if you went to aux 1, you'd have all those buttons the same as there, and same with the speed button. All that stuff is the same as before, right? But if you hit the train link button, now that you have the diner car linked to this, you'll get a completely different set of icons that will show up on the screen here. And by choosing those icons, basically you can basically trigger the sequences in the station diner car. So for instance, if I hit the crew talk.
Thank you. Thanks for riding the express. Mind the gap.
And if you did the station sounds.
May I have your attention, please? The Empire State Express is now boarding.
So there's a whole bunch of, there's sounds when the train is stopped, and there are sounds when the train is moving, and you can pick between those two different types of sounds. But in order to switch back between the buttons for the train and the buttons for the Station Sounds Diner, you use the train link button because you have that car linked to your train. And every time you switch it, then you'll get a different set of icons that you can use to trigger different sequences. Now, it also has a couple of other cool things. There's a light right here, which is actually a light right here in the drivers that you can turn on and off. I don't know if you saw that little light go on right there, right above the drivers. Okay. And then they have, you know, same thing with like steam effects, filling the water. You have Rule 17 lighting. You can turn the sounds up and down, right? You have all these different choices, just like you normally would on a legacy remote. So you got all your standard things. But now, when you do these buttons,
Thanks for riding the express.
you have this sort of when they're in the station, and you probably can't hear, but let me go over to the car here.
Your luggage is right over there.
You can hear it a little better.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Empire State Express is now boarding.
And then there's commands when you do aux 1 in those same buttons, and it'll give you different types of commands.
Thank you. Thanks for riding the express. Whoa, steady there, sir.
May I have your attention, please? The Empire State Express has arrived.
I don't know if you can hear it, but there's little sounds of like people walking around and things like that. So kind of cool. Now the other thing the Station Sounds Diner does is when the train is moving, it's like sort of those box cars that Lionel released with the sounds of the clickety-clack and the squealing. So that's automatic, and you can turn those on and off with the remote if you don't like some of them, but it also has that additional feature so that when the train's moving, you get that cool sound of the train, which I always like. So that's one of the cool things. The other thing is when it's moving, then you have more choices for the crew talk, and every time you hit the button, it'll do a different phrase or saying as the train is moving. And until you stop the train, right, it will just keep moving to the next saying in the sequence. So we'll try to get this moving here, and then we'll see if we can basically get this crew talk working here. So let me see if I can get this moving. We'll just go backwards for now. Alright, so that's that one. And then we're going to do the crew talk.
Next stop coming up. If this is your stop, please move to the door. Hey, pal, this is your stop.
Welcome aboard, folks!
Ticket, please. Tickets, please have your tickets ready. Sir, I need to see that ticket.
Hi, folks! The first seating is now open in the dining
So there's all kinds of people talking and making all kinds of noise, right, when the train is moving, okay? So let's just go forward. You should be able to hear the squeals and everything of the train. So let me get this camera off the tripod here, and then we'll sort of follow it around. Show up, but they have different icons for the passenger car. So when you hit the train link button, you'll get these different icons that'll help you between the station and the announcements on the train.
Hi folks, we got soda pop and snacks in the lounge car. And cocktails.
so I turned the train sounds down and I turned the diner up so maybe you can hear it. But there is a announcement when the car is in motion. Yeah, basically 5 announcements. You got welcome aboard, tickets please, first seating in the dining car, second seating in the dining car, and the lounge car open. But then if you do aux 1 and the conductor symbol, you'll actually get another one, which is the next stop coming up. So if you have multiple stops going around, you just, while it's moving, you just hit aux. You got to be in the train link button. So remember, when you're in the Legacy remote, you got to hit train link here, and then you'll get all these extra icons, right? And then you're going to do aux 1 and the microphone, which is the conductor, and that will give you the message that next stop coming up. If you don't do aux 1 and you just do the conductor, then you cycle through those 5 things while it's moving. And then the station symbol here is also for that when you do the stations, right? And you can do the same thing. There's an aux 1 and stuff. So there's different combinations, whether you just use the straight button or we use aux 1 with it to get different announcement. And it always depends if the train's moving or not moving. So in this case, we're going to move it a little bit, and then I'll do it should say next stop if I do the aux 1 and then the conductor microphone symbol. So let's go back to train. So that's the thing. You have to keep switching between train and the car by doing the train link button, and that switches the icons basically back and forth as you're going between them. And you notice that you get a little clunking sound when you switch to the Station Sounds Diner car. So go back to the engine here. We'll start it up a little bit. We'll just go slow so we can hear it, hopefully. And now we'll switch. We'll hit train link. And then when we hit train link, we're going to go and we're going to hit that aux 1. Okay, so now we'll do aux 1 and the conductor.
Next up, coming right up. If this is your stop, please move to the door.
So it's got people sounds and different things as it's going along, basically.
Next up, coming right up. Next stop coming up. Hey pal, this is your stop.
So super cool. They've got that great next stop announcement, and if you hit it multiple times, he says a couple different phrases. And then they've got the 5 announcements when the train is moving, and you don't do aux 1, you just do the conductor icon. And then when the train is stopped, you also have the combinations of the station and the conductor, by the way, of using aux 1 or not. If you don't use aux 1, I believe it's the departing sounds, and if you use the other one, it's the arriving. So you get both sets from the station and from the conductor, depending if you use those buttons with aux 1 or not. But basically, again, the main thing is to control your engine, you have to be in the engine mode, and to control the Station Sounds Diner, you hit the train link button so it switches the icons, and then you're in that mode. And so you just switch back and forth with the train link button, and that's pretty it. And that's only occurs if you've actually set up a train, okay? So that's the basic model, and it's super cool, super long model if you get all the cars. It looks awesome going around the track. Great legacy rail sounds on it, and you know, I highly recommend you get the Station Sounds Diner if you can find one of those. And then I think the only thing it needs is just a little paint on the inside and some figures, and it'll be all set. So let's go ahead and look at the Legacy train setup if you're not familiar with that. All right, so let's talk about the train setup. So you see this is TR, which is train 54, right? That's just the number I gave it. It's the first 2 digits of the train. But the engine itself, if I go over to engine, you can see I have Empire State Express here. It's 27. So first thing you have to do is program your engine and get it on your layout with some unique ID, whatever it is. So I picked the last 2 digits, so I did 27 on it, and I set it up like I normally do with any other legacy engine. So that's there. Then you have to do the exact same thing with the Station Sounds Diner car. It needs its own unique ID. So if I actually go to engine here, I think I did 26. Yep. Oh no, 26 is actually the engine itself. Sorry, I got that backwards. So 26 was the New York Central J3A Hudson engine, right? And 27 is the Station Sounds Diner car. Okay, that's what I named that one for when I programmed it. So I've got 26 and 27, right? Now, you could technically, you can see it says passenger car, right? But technically, I could control these separately if I wanted to, but I would have to keep switching back and forth between engines, right? And unfortunately, when you click between engines, unlike most legacy engines where it just sort of takes over, you have to hit the start button again for the Station Sounds Diner to recognize the command. So it's kind of a pain, and you don't want to do it that way. There's an easier way. So what you want to do is build a train. So if you never built a train before, it's basically the same thing as when you're lashing up two engines, right? So you're going to hit train, and then when you do that, you're going to create a train, right? And when you hit the train button, if you go to info, it's going to give you a whole menu where you can make your train, right? And you can see there's a build button, there's a name button, and you see mine's already created here. I just labeled it 54 Empire State Express. My head engine is engine 26 there. It's a steam type locomotive. It's legacy and legacy rail sounds. And when I have, now that will be blank when you first go into it and you build your train, so you have to program all that in. But if I hit the build button here, right, you can see there's my two pieces. There's the 26 engine that I programmed, right? So that's the head engine. And then there's the Empire State Express Station Sounds Diner car, which is engine 27. And all you do is once you pick, you'll have a blank screen here basically, and you're just going to hit the add button. And when you click it, then you type in your engine number and it'll pull it in. And there's the engine, right? The steam engine. I have a little picture of it. And then you click add again and it will go to the next one. And you use the little dial on the legacy remote here to switch between them. Okay? If you want to change them or make them flip them around the other direction or whatever you want to do. But this lets you program as many of these together. So if, it's the same thing if you were doing two engines together, right? You'd be two engines, two numbers, and then you join them together in the builder. And then once you're done, you just hit this set button, and the engine will make a sound, and so will the Station Sounds Diner car. So they'll both be making sounds letting you know that you've programmed it correctly. And then you name it whatever you want, just like anything else. There's a name choice right there. So I named it ESE Express, Empire State Express, and that's my train. And so now I don't actually go, when I go back to my main menu here, I'm not actually using engine to run this. I'm actually using the train button. So I do train, type in 54, and then it'll come up with Empire State Express at the top there. And now I've got my legacy commands there as normal with my remote for the engine, right? And then if you actually switch it to the train link button, then you would actually see the different icons on the bottom here. When you do that for the, see it says train link at the top here. Do you see how it says engine 27 info? That's the passenger car right there. And if you look, you see how all the icons changed? So this would be the normal crew talk icon, but now it's a microphone for the conductor. And over here, where normally it's the tower talk, you can see it's the station. It's a passenger station icon. And then you can turn the lights on and off in the car. And it also has some other things on here like turning the volume up and down for the Station Sounds Diner and things like that. So there's all kinds of cool buttons on here that appear once you program that in correctly and you have it in your train. And then if you want to go back to, now remember when you're in this mode here, you can't control the engine. It's dead, so you can't stop it or use the wheel or anything like that. So what you have to do is quickly hit the train link button again, and then the icons will basically switch back to the train icons, and now you're in control of the engine again. But you don't have to go to engine to switch back and forth. It's this quick train link button here, which I think a lot of people don't know what this button does on the legacy remote, but that's one of its functions right there. And super easy. The instructions tell you exactly how to program it all in if you're not familiar with building trains inside the legacy Cab 2 remote. But it's super easy to do. And this would be the same process as if you were taking two like diesel engines and wanted to have them run together and things like that. So Yeah, and I think that's it for setting up the Station Sounds Diner with the Empire State Express set. Okay guys, thanks for watching my video on this beautiful Empire State Express set and a little bit of history we went over about it. It's kind of cool. I love the Hudsons. If you know me and you've seen my videos, you know I love Hudsons. They're my favorite engine. This is cool. I love the streamlining and kind of the era that this happened. Kind of funny date with the 1941 December 7th date, but sometimes that's just the way things go. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and if you are interested in this engine, it's a great set to pick up. Make sure you get the Station Sounds Diner because it adds just that extra little flair onto the set. And I think that's going to be it for today, so I'll see you next time.